For the housing law amendment, I might just touch a little bit on it and see what the implications are to the economy, and then go into the regional review. So first of all, why is the housing so important to the economy? First of all, it is the engine room of the economy. In particular in Vietnam, it is a very large store of the nation's wealth, so it is very, very important. It also drives labour markets, so the housing market is critical to the overall part of the economy there, particularly in property. We then just had a look around to see how Vietnam ranked with the potential changes in this housing law against our competitors. So bearing in mind that we've had this amendment passed that comes into effect July this year, we're still waiting for the guiding circulars and the decrees to understand how this will be implemented. And so while we're waiting for this, we're seeking some clarity, but we're also hoping that perhaps there can be some additional thought given on its implementation that might make a greater bonus out of this amendment. So we had a look around the region, and this is all the countries. I apologise, very low resolution, but you can get this on our handouts. So these are all our competitors. We did a very quick ranking of where Vietnam now sits. We think we're sitting up in the top on a 1 to 5 ranking. We're sitting up pretty much up the top now. So we think this is a very, very progressive amendment to the housing law. We're very excited about it. We then looked around to see what the further impact could be, and we had a look at the standout case study in the region. And Malaysia, with the Malaysia My Second Home, has a very, very good case study, a very attractive situation there. And this is what's known as a golden visa. So with a golden visa, you have your residential entry, and then you can have a 10-year visa, provided that you invest a minimum, in this case, of around $570,000. And that you have a 10-year residential visa. Previously, you had capital gains tax limited to 0% and dividend repatriation, very attractive as well. And so what we're hoping for is that we might get to a situation, perhaps with this housing law amendment, of having somewhere near a golden visa situation. What does that actually mean in terms of numbers in Vietnam? What's the real impact to the economy, and will this mean lots of foreigners flooding in and pushing prices up and distorting the market? Well, actually, no. So we did our quick numbers. We think there's about 100,000 dwellings coming on the next couple of years in Ho Chi Minh, Hanoi. If you have a look at Vietnam's wonderful structural residential side, we've got a household occupancy at 4.1. We've got an urbanisation rate of about 3%. Put those numbers together, and that drops out about 100,000 dwellings a year at a very optimistic rate. So what we can see, I think there's not a great supply-demand imbalance there. Things catch up very, very quickly in Vietnam. We have only 74,000 foreigners in Vietnam. They're generally tied to a 2-year working visa, so that means mortgage is quite difficult. Very difficult to get debt over a 2-year term. So it doesn't necessarily mean all the foreigners in country will suddenly be distorting this market. If we then have a little bit look at it further, and we use in particular the Malaysia My Second Home, let's say foreign ownership, and we've had a look around at mature economies. Mature economies average between 5 and 10% of total transactions annually as foreign purchases. Say there's around 35,000 transactions a year in Vietnam, that drops the numbers out at 5% at the beginning, about 1,750 purchases. It's not that many. Malaysia My Second Home, very mature, up to 3,000 per annum, 3,700 I think in 2013. Average price of 120,000. That's around $210 million worth of sales. That's quite healthy. That's ticking that market along. There's some additional bonus income that we've factored in here to the government, around $3 million of some processing fees along the way. So overall, what we're trying to say here is that, look, this is very, very good. It's very healthy, and it helps the overall liquidity of the market, but there's no chance it's going to distort things terribly. Okay, so that covers that. Now, just a very quick regional review, what's happening around the market. Global capital flows in real estate. So we are now there is now a net outflow from Asia Pacific of around $7 billion per annum. Previously, inflows, if we have a look at our next slide, previously, up until about here, you can see, so this is inflows, outflows. You can see here is the turning point inflows into Asia-Pac. Now, as we're heading on year-to-date 2014, it's outflows out of Asia-Pac. So Asia-Pacific are now net buyers globally more than purchases coming into Asia-Pacific. Continuing on, drilling down a little bit into Vietnam's competitive landscape. GDP, it's a pretty boring indicator, but it's nonetheless quite reasonable for integrity. You can see our GDP in the near term is pretty healthy, it's pretty good. Some of our neighbours also are pretty good. But look out, this is the issue here that I can see. Our near neighbours, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, these guys are traditionally the competitors with the cheap labour source, manufacturing locations, and they are emerging. So there is a fair amount of healthy GDP growth in those countries. What's good is this. This is our fixed investment. So fixed investments generally for manufacturing, plant, equipment, infrastructure, the things that will keep on driving the economy through. And Vietnam's got a very, very healthy fixed investment over the near term. Certainly not as healthy as China, that's pretty great. But we've got very, very healthy fixed investment over the near term, so that's going to help us along. Continuing on, digging down now into Vietnam, this is the ultra high net worth individuals. Why are ultra high net worth individuals important to us in Vietnam? Well, these guys drop a lot into property. Generally, they have a couple of houses at least. They're over $30 million. These are people with over $30 million. What's happened in Vietnam over the last year? We've risen from 195 ultra high net worth individuals to around 210. They're holding around $20 billion of assets at the moment. That hasn't gone up, that's stayed the same, but we've just had more people come in. What's that? That's a Maybach. That's one of the best luxury cars on the market, most accessible. And there's 10 of those ordered in Vietnam for 2015. So things are ticking along okay for the ultra high net worth individuals in Vietnam. Now, having a little bit of a flip about to have a look at some other rankings, the World Bank, this is the Doing Business report. This Doing Business measures things in the life of a business, taxation, contract enforcement, all the sort of stuff for starting a business and running a business that you need to know about. There we are, we're ranked number 78. We're climbing, we're getting better, which is good. Some of the areas that Vietnam improved on in particular was getting credit. The establishment of that new credit bureau has helped that transparency side. But also the other part is paying taxes. And if anybody's taking a note of CIT and corporate income tax in Vietnam, this is very aggressive and very competitive. So that's certainly improving that business landscape. World Bank, these guys have been busy. So this is the Land Transparency Index or report. What it has done is visited all provinces, wards, communes, over 500 site visits for this. And what is it looking at is transparency overall. What we know is that the land law explicitly provides the citizens to have the right to monitor land use information. So what this is doing is seeing how that is transferred to the general public. The report card's pretty much it's okay, but can do better. So at a provincial level, certainly online has improved enormously, but certainly district, commune, ward levels needs to improve a little bit. Some of the areas are attitude, capacity, and leadership. It's pretty important for this. The whole idea of this report is that it summarises priority actions so that we can move towards greater market efficiency, and it reduces conflicts for land acquisition. So it is quite important. Very important out of this report, it noted that the provinces with more dynamic leadership wanted to get more information so that they could improve. And I think we could all, those provinces spring to mind pretty readily. Economist Intelligence Unit, these guys have done a survey looking forward for 2015, areas that will improve and areas and industries that they're looking for growth out of. I think the key thing here is that the health and pharma are the areas for improvement that are the ones to look to for 2015. Importantly, retail, still a little bit, 19% of those respondents in the retail felt that things could worsen. So still some mixed signals out of there. I continue on, and this is my last slide, from the Economist Intelligence Unit, and I use Simon Baptist. He's a lot smarter than me and knows what's going on globally. So these are his 3 tips and areas to watch out for in 2015. The first one is the supply chains are evolving as the cost of wages rises in China and increased risk. The new supply chain dynamics will take place. And that will mean opportunities for other areas within the supply chain, and it will change the geography of trade. Second one, social policy in emerging markets. This is interesting. As the demographic change occurs and we have rising middle classes across these emerging markets, then we'll see a lot more pressure for social policy to change. We've already seen this happening very actively in Indonesia and the Philippines, particularly in regards to medical and health.